Hello Giants fans, welcome to Giants Baseball 101. I'm Gabe Vaughn, your host. The Giants beat the Diamondbacks 7-6 today. They're starting to win games, that's good. You know, if my team was going to have one good half and one bad half of spring training, I'd much rather have the good half be the second one. I think that's the most accurate representation, relatively speaking, of how the team's going to do in the season. And hopefully that'll be the case with the Giants, as they continue to perform well in spring training from here on out. But once you've narrowed down your roster to what it's a little bit more likely to look like in the season, and I don't think they've finished all of the roster cuts they're going to make before opening day, but it's still narrowed down a bit, so it's definitely the time now, a little bit closer to what we would really expect the team to look like in the season. And they are picking it up, I think, at the right time and winning games. Logan Webb pitched 3.2 innings today. He gave up 3 runs. 2 of them were earned. He's been named as the opening day starter for the Giants. And while I don't think that it's ever a good idea to decide on your opening day starter or really anything too early before you've seen everything, like when you're a significant distance from opening day, in the Giants' case, really, who besides Logan Webb would it be? I mean, I guess the other candidate is Ross Stripling, but I don't think that in spring training he's outperformed Webb, so there's really no other logical option, I don't think, for the Giants this time. So it is very reasonable in their case to see Webb as the guy who's going to start for them on opening day. I'm just not sure whether they should be making definite statements about anything yet. The thing they did well was making no definite statement on Joey Bart, whether he'd make the opening day roster or not. I believe that should never be guaranteed to any player. But anyway, Logan Webb starting opening day, and I think that is the best thing for them. Scott Alexander pitched a scoreless inning too. He walked 2. He struck out 2. I think, I've said this before, I think he's going to be a great guy out of the bullpen to come in against left-handed hitters in the late innings of a ball game. Only thing is that 3-batter minimum rule, and I still haven't heard any talk of taking it out. It really is a ridiculous rule, and just with all the other stuff, all the pitch clocks and pickoff limits that are coming in, that's speeding up the game. You would think that at least they could take out the 3-batter minimum rule. That's To me, that's just the least we could ask here. I hope that's going to be considered sometime soon, because this is just wrong. But anyway, Alexander, at least against lefties in the late innings, will be a good option. You know, coming in, he'll have to face 3, but whatever. It's not that he can't pitch to right-handed hitters, so that's a good thing, obviously. Anyway, on offense, J.D. Davis hit a 3-run homer. It's good to see power from him. He actually performed pretty well for the Giants this year. And then in the 8th inning, with the game tied, Austin Slater walked in the go-ahead run that ultimately was the winning run for the Giants. Now, I've been thinking a lot about this late inning thing with the Giants. They have just had a lot of disappointing losses, I think particularly last year. If they could have been changed into wins, I mean, the Giants were not that far away from a playoff spot, but it was significant enough that there just wasn't much hope of a playoff spot going into the end of September. So I've just been wondering what the Giants should really do, whether maybe more aggressive base running in the late innings is an option for them. Bunting, too, is an obvious consideration, but particularly base running, at least for the faster runners on their team. If they did that more aggressively, I wonder if that is just a good way of trying to change things. I think with the pickoff limits and all that, stolen bases are expected to go up, so it might be a little easier to do. You might see more teams doing that in the late innings, so if that's something the Giants want to focus on, I think that'd be great. And I mean from an offensive and a defensive side. I think that their runners should probably be trained to be aggressive in the late innings in tied games. At least I think in games where it's tied and with a low score. Because otherwise it would mean the Giants' offense was racking things up anyway, which, I mean, maybe you just hope for the best and it'd be best for the runner not to risk getting thrown out. I don't know. But anyway, it is, I think, if there's reason to think that the bats are slow, or at least if the Giants kind of prove to be in a time where their bats have a hard time going in those particular late inning situations against the opposing team's best late inning relievers. If the Giants hitters are having a hard time doing that and they can't change things by using platoon pinch hitting, if that doesn't make a difference for them, I certainly think then they should seriously consider just going aggressive on the base running, trying to steal bases. That's the offensive part of it. But there's a flip side to this for their own late inning pitchers. They're going to have to be good too at preventing steals, because the pickoff limits, I believe that's 3 per batter that comes to the plate when a runner's on. That's going to apply to both sides. So I just think that in terms of aggressive base running, the Giants are going to have to look at this from an offensive and a defensive perspective. And the defensive, it's not just the pitcher, it's not just the catcher, but it's going to be the second and third baseman too, being ready and able to tag out base runners. This could just be another reason why defense is going to be so critical for the Giants. Maybe in a different way. It's not so much about fielding balls as it is about other types of quickness, but it is a defensive issue here. From an offensive and defensive standpoint, the Giants are going to have to look at these late inning games that they're going to run into objectively and find out what they can do to win, and just look at this stealing bases situation, use it to their advantage, and hopefully prevent other teams from doing so. So that's something the Giants should focus on. And their pitchers, coaches need to crack down on this. Pitchers need to be trained to be alert, and they should focus on being exceptional at preventing that. Same thing with the defense. Now, you might wonder why I'm bringing all this up. I mean, today it was just an RBI walk where it might seem to be beyond the point. I don't think there were any stolen bases in the 8th inning. I don't know that for sure. And it is a little bit beside the point, but I'm just bringing that up because it's going to be so important for the Giants to address how they approach late inning situations so they don't run into just what they ran into last year. Same thing's going to apply for extra innings, and I think whatever they need to program their players to figure out in terms of the high leverage of that situation, both offensively and defensively, having the automatic runner, it's got offensive and defensive implications. Hitting, pitching, fielding, everything. I just think whatever philosophy the Giants need to have in looking at that too, it's something they're going to have to do. Well, that's all for right now. Thank you for watching. This has been Giants Baseball 101. Please subscribe if you haven't. Also, please leave a question or a comment. I will try to get back to you on that. I'll see you next time on Giants Baseball 101.